Hello, Miro. Welcome to the 7S series of positive health, 7S of positive health, your concept. Happy to see you again.
Hello, Gabi. Very happy to
Hello.
see you. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year too. So we're starting into the new year with another episode. We will dedicate this, let's say, emission to the S of sleep. It's part of your concept, sleep, one of the 7 S's. You say, basically a short introduction from my side, you say sleep as long as you can and as long as you really need it. Because sleep would be the best regeneration that you can offer to yourself. Be generous to your body and your mind. So very interesting. Tell us a bit more.
Sleep, we very often nowadays in the Western culture, especially, we take it for granted. We think it's like, okay, it's like a kind of necessary part of our life, but somehow we maybe would like to minimize the hours of sleep because we even think it kind of steals our life. It's kind of 1/3 of my life should I spend like not doing anything, like wasting my time almost. And there is even there are people who would recommend to like, okay, if you don't have enough time, then get up early, and like they don't even think about the sleep as something that is very valuable for us. But it's like everybody would admit that somehow sleep is necessary, but I don't think we fully appreciate how important it is for our health, but not only the bodily health, but also the health of our mind or our soul. Yeah, if we take even the spiritual aspect, how well we feel about ourselves, how good can we focus, how good can we memorize the things from the previous day or days. There's a lot of studies that support this notion that without proper sleep, we tend to forget things. But there is a lot of other aspects, like even trivialities, like maybe not for everybody it's a triviality, but the effect on body weight. Not everybody knows that if we don't sleep properly and enough, we tend to overeat and eat impulsively, which translates to weight gain. So people who are struggling with this should definitely remember about it. Yeah, so sleep is so important from so many perspectives and aspects, not least the influence of on our immunology. So if we want to be resistant to all the bacteria, viruses, and which surround us all the time, investing in sleep is absolutely fantastic and very powerful. And people who sleep well and take care of themselves tend to have less infections, but not only infections, that's a very direct and kind of well understood effect, but also, which we don't even understand fully why, but there is much less cardiovascular disease, even certain types of cancer and neurological disease. So there is a lot of influence that we don't even fully understand. I mean, as medical doctors, there is a lot of studies going on, but definitely sleep is valuable, important, necessary, and we should really treat it as a priority.
Okay, wow. A couple of things that have been new to us, and I'm sure to the Yippie community as well. So let's take a look. What does sleep do with our body? Let's stay physical first. What does it do with our body? We get rest, okay, but this rest, what does it? Do we slow down? Does our heart beat less or more? What does our stomach make when we sleep? Can you explain a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So nowadays, a lot of people use, including myself, these health watches or other methods. There are also scientific or medical devices that are used when you have some heart issues and so on. But even this simple health watch can show you a lot about the heart rate and including heart rate variability, which is another interesting factor showing how well you can relax during sleep, but also during the day, during many different activities. But basically, coming back to your question, the heart rhythm slows down. So like in my case, I can tell you because I monitor it almost every day. I typically during the day, in a resting phase, I would say, I have my heart rate between 60 and 70. Then if I exercise or if I engage in some light activities, it would be like around 80, 90. And by sports, especially very intensive sports, my heart rate might go up to 180. So that's the range during the day activities. But during sleep, usually I go somewhere between 40 and 50.
Wow.
My lowest record was 37, which is pretty low. It's probably because I'm quite well trained. And but typically something like 45, 47, these are the values that you can expect. But definitely like 10, 20% below your resting heart rate during the day, which is already very interesting. This shows that our heart is resting, but also all our tissues. But it's not like that we just slow down and do nothing, because all the regeneration processes, this is like biochemically active states. So we just need to slow down with thinking, with muscle activity, in order to get rid of some toxins, to repair our proteins with new amino acids, to make sure that our immune system regenerates, that we get rid of the old stuff that might be a little bit broken, and we build the new stuff that will be fully functional the next day, which takes time. It's an enormously complex system. Like this immunology system of human body is enormously complex. There is decades of research in this area, and the scientists usually admit that we just scratch the surface still. Even though we know a lot, there's a huge number of studies, but still we understand that there is probably much more that we don't know yet. And what we know is that sleep is the method, the natural capacity to regenerate our organism, including the immune system, which is then crucial for our resistance, for our health. Day to day, like now in winter, is especially important, in pandemic times anyway. So this would be like important enough just because of the infections protection and in being immunologically fit. But as I said, there is a lot of other aspects, especially on the neurological side, like memory, like cognitive fitness, being able to store information, being able to focus. So like you probably heard about studies when people don't sleep at all after 24 hours, their capacity to solve tests for drivers is like comparing to being drunk, like having like 4 or 5 beers, more or less. Yeah. So the reaction times and everything, even though we don't feel it that way, also after alcohol, not everybody feels that they are like slower and not fit enough. It's exactly the same after sleep, that people feel, yeah, maybe a little bit tired, but I'm okay. I will manage. And of course, it's not always the case, or usually not the case, and there is a danger for ourselves, but also for other people. For instance, if we don't sleep and drive, we typically test on people, like even if the police will stop you, they will test on alcohol if there is some doubt, maybe on some other substances, but very rarely they will ask you questions around, did you sleep well? Professional driving context, it's different, because as you probably know, the drivers need to have a special diary. It's done electronically nowadays, where they have to prove that they had enough rest, which makes sense. Unfortunately for the amateur drivers, it's not really the case. I'm not suggesting that we should formalize it too much, but to raise the awareness, how important the sleep is for our fitness, not only in the physical but also mental sense, including being able to focus on our tasks and the reaction times. And
what else does sleep do to our mind, to our brain. Let's stay again a little bit physical, but why it's so important for our brain. Our brain also has kind of rate, how well it works, how good it works, how active the brain is. We all know about the factor of dreaming, which could be an episode by itself probably,
Yeah,
but something
absolutely.
happens in our brain. It slows down and another process
Yeah, there
starts.
is the different waves. That's like a huge
Mm-hmm.
topic. You heard
Mm-hmm.
about these beta waves, the normal ones, but then you have alpha
Okay.
waves, theta waves, delta waves. It's all very complex and very interesting. We don't fully understand the importance of it, but we know already in which phase the memorizing takes place, in which phase the dreaming take place, the rapid eye movement phase, and so on, so on. So we know a lot, but still
Mm-hmm.
again kind of scratching on the surface, because the complexity of human brain and the processes, knowing that it's like billions of neurons and synapses, and the complexity of the whole systemic connections within the brain, it's fascinating, and we
Mm-hmm.
just recognize the basic mechanisms better and better. But what we definitely know is that brain needs regeneration. Yeah? So it's like the nature has planned for it, that every day we have kind of like a maintenance
Mm-hmm.
process, which we should respect. It was designed the way, and like trying to be more clever and skipping something that was designed to keep us alive and keep us fit
Healthy.
and keep us in best form is not very clever, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should be clever enough to accept what nature designed for us, and
Mm-hmm.
follow this rhythm, this beautiful circadian rhythm, which actually designs certain phases of our activity and inactivity, even though, as we know, sleep is not really total inactivity, because there are a lot of active processes that we
Mm-hmm.
just mentioned, but providing enough space
Mm-hmm.
for the rest in the sleep phase is essential. And
Mm-hmm.
here, I think it's so important that we should really make it easier for us by planning accordingly and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
making sure that there is certain routines that
Mm-hmm.
enable falling asleep, because many people complain about difficulty in falling
Falling
asleep or
asleep
continuing sleeping.
or getting up.
But when you look at their rhythm and schedule, sometimes it's very, very irregular. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Then it's kind of okay. Some people maybe have like shifts in the work and
Mm-hmm.
so on, so it might be objectively difficult, like nurses or doctors. I experienced it myself at a
Mm-hmm.
certain phase of my life, and it's really bad. But then the results are very often disastrous, including doctors. So like the
Mm-hmm.
burnout rates, for instance, and frustration rates with
Mm-hmm.
people who have this shift work, it's much higher. It's very well documented. But
Okay.
most people don't need to follow this kind of schedule. And if we put a little bit of attention and planning into it, we might make sure that we sleep more or less in the same hours of the day. So like in my case, personally, I try to
Mm-hmm.
be in bed like 11:30, quarter to 12 at the latest, and
Yeah.
make sure that I sleep between 12 and 7:30 at least. Yeah, maybe a little bit, a few minutes before, could be also a few minutes later or short, but more or less this 7.5, which I've discovered or found out for myself, is I would say rather maybe minimum, not optimum. I could sleep another half an hour,
Mm-hmm.
another hour, depending on the day and how intensive the previous day was.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it might be physical aspect that makes my sleep need bigger, or sometimes the mental or the amount of stress it could be, but everybody should discover it for themselves.
Okay.
In my case, as I said, I think it's like 7.5 of on average, could be a little bit shorter or longer,
Mm-hmm.
but not much. Between 7 and 8, definitely. When I sleep shorter than 7, I notice it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I observe my body for years, I notice it, and I know it's not like half 50%. If I sleep, let's say 6 hours, it's not like 50% less capacity
Mm-hmm.
to during the day, but it's maybe 20%. But why should I do it to myself? I want to be the best version of myself every day, actually. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I prefer to like stop the film that I'm watching, or whatever the program is on
Mm-hmm.
the previous day, in order thinking, look, next day is important for me. I want to be fit. I want to be the best version of myself. So sorry, I cut it now and go to sleep. Of course, there are some exceptions. Maybe if you're at a wedding party of your best friend or something exceptional happens. I'm not rigid in the sense that you should forget everything and this is the only principle and most important thing. But generally, I would say 95% of the time, you can keep your schedule. And it is so much helpful. People who do it usually have no problem to fall asleep and they are so much more refreshed in the morning. Thankful for the decision, which might be a little bit difficult to cut something like you're reading a great book or watching a film or whatever, but it pays and it's
off.
The great feeling comes in the morning.
So first, what I take out is it's individual. I wanted to ask you about a recommendation in average, how many hours a human being should sleep, but it's individual, and you told it's a personal recommendation and experience. So it's individual. Try out is the message, and you feel yourself, no? What
Exactly,
it's,
but
if
I would
it's not.
still say that because I spoke to many sleep researchers and authors, and I read quite a few books about it, and I'm interested in this topic for many years. Most experts would say that even though some people claim that for them, let's say 6 hours, which is pretty typical, or even less, is definitely enough, according to their research and experience, it is extremely rare. So one guy said, I don't remember who exactly, but he's one of the leading American sleep specialists. He said that for 99 point something percent, the right amount of sleep is between 7 and 9 hours. And it's extremely rare that somebody really needs less sleep than 7 hours. It might be that people sleep less for years and manage, but this doesn't mean that it's optimal. Yeah? There is, for me, a big difference between sufficient, or let's say minimal number of hours of sleep, and optimal number of hours. So, if you want to have like minimally good life, then do everything at your minimum. Yeah, it's like like with everything. Yeah, it's you can survive. Yeah, it's also like you might eat less quality food, and it probably you might still live long, maybe not 90 but 80 years, whatever. And you can have like a great experience because of your freshness and you enjoy like every step of your workout, let's say, or you can be like tired in the end, but you will still do it. So I believe we should ask ourselves this question and answer it like very honestly. What is the optimal number of hours of sleep for me? And test it a little bit during the weekend at least. Not put the alarm clock. Go to sleep like in the right hours, let's say somewhere between 11 or 12, or it might be much earlier for some people, depending on the preference. There are this type, like, as we know, owls and early birds, whatever. There's books about like 5 different types, but still people differ in this when they want to go to sleep. It's another topic. But the amount of sleep, usually we say it should be at least 4 or 5 cycles. Every cycle will last like hour and a half, around 90 minutes. So definitely it's like 6 is the absolute minimum. Most people would need something around 7.5, as myself. There are people who sleep longer. You might have heard the people who really take care of their looks and beauty, like the models, for instance. Typical model sleeps not less than 9 hours, the most less 10 hours. Yeah? Because they know, it's well known in the branch, that if you sleep long, your skin looks better. So it's again, like, do you want the minimum to survive, or do you want the maximum that you look great in case of a model? But maybe for some other people, it's not necessary that you look, your looks are that important. But I think everybody would like to look nice, and it's symbolically only shows the effectiveness of sleep or the importance of sleep. But this is maybe a little bit of extreme, because in case of models, their looks is the source of their income, fame, and status and everything. But we should learn the lesson in the sense that, like, that the amount of sleep should not be neglected, and it's good or essential for our looks, for our physical health, for our mental health, and for our life enjoyment, I would say. I really observed myself for years, and the amount of energy that you have if you slept well is incomparable. Yeah, and
Mm.
some people, I know quite a few people who say, "Yeah, I sleep 6 hours. It's okay." In most cases, they don't look like vital and vibrant
Vital.
and
Yeah.
super happy. They look like, yeah, I'm managing somehow. Yeah, if that's your goal, okay. Yeah, so who am I to change it? I just like to open this perspective. We
Yes.
might give ourselves a chance to have
Mm-hmm.
an even better life. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if we think it's okay now, as we know from the positive psychology, like
Exactly.
what Seligman always said, he was working his whole life of bringing people from -10 or -8
Mm-hmm.
until
Mm-hmm.
zero. But sometimes you don't
Mm-hmm.
even manage zero, maybe -1,
Mm-hmm.
-2. But actually, how about if we are around the zero? Is it the end of the scale?
Mm-hmm.
And we believe now, no, there is also the other part of the scale from 0 to +10. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
10 with this vitality, this being strong, energetic, smiling, willing to help others, having like excess of energy, which you are very much willing to invest and maybe help other people do great things, change
Mm-hmm.
the world. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
not only somehow survive. Yeah.
Survive. Yeah. So 0 on the scale, like which we know from positive psychology, this would be sufficient as you described it, and 10 would be really the optimum, the best version of ourselves. And why not pull this source? Yeah, we have a very
Absolutely.
valuable
It's for
source.
free, it's for free.
It's
There are
for
people
free.
who
Mm.
destroy their health, then they go to some special places, they take some special therapies, expensive
Mm-hmm.
doctors
Mm-hmm.
or centers, drugs and
Mm-hmm.
supplements and everything. But actually, if we live healthy in the first place, and enough sleep is an absolutely crucial part of the whole picture,
Yes.
then in most cases we will not need to invest in the later stage of our life in all these other things. So I
Okay.
think it needs a little bit of discipline, of course,
Yeah.
and this will be another
Yeah.
topic coming soon, by the way. It's another S of
Mm-hmm.
my concept. But it really pays to take care of yourself and making sure that you sleep enough and in good
Mm-hmm.
conditions. And I would give one recommendation that I think
Okay.
is absolutely crucial, and I try to live it myself, that your bed and your sleeping room should be the place where you do only two things. You sleep and maybe have sex, coming back to our previous point. So only the pleasure and regeneration. You
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't have a TV in your sleeping room. You
Yeah.
shouldn't eat in your sleeping room. You
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't do other things. It
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't definitely not be your second working desk,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
which a lot of people do. Like I
Yeah.
just open my computer and I send a few emails, and then you
Okay.
have like this mix of feeling that is, it should be kind of like a sacred place, where you
Mm-hmm.
do only the special two things and
Mm-hmm.
nothing else. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
keep
No
that
blue
in
lights. No blue
mind.
lights. Fresh air is also very important, right? For
Absolute
sleeping. I've
pressure.
heard
It
also
should be
that,
also a little bit colder. There
yes,
is studies
temperature.
showing that if the temperature is 1 degree colder,
Mm-hmm.
comparing to the room when we were before trying to
Yeah.
get sleep, the sleeping process, getting to sleep, comes much earlier because our
Okay.
body needs to cool down. It's part of
Mm-hmm.
in order for the heart to beat, be able to beat lower. You need
Mm-hmm.
if the body is a bit colder, it
Mm-hmm.
helps all
Mm-hmm.
synchronous. So that some people
This.
would say the optimal temperature would be somewhere around 18 degrees. Some people like it even lower, but definitely like this 21 or more, which people consider room temperature, might be too
Mm-hmm.
much. So we should
Might be too much. Yeah.
like I myself, if you have these thermostats, I would have
Yeah.
in my living room somewhere between 2 and 3, but in the
Mm-hmm.
sleeping room, like between 1 and 2. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely there is a difference always. And I
Mm-hmm.
would recommend from my own experience to like bedroom temperature somewhere around 18, 19,
Mm-hmm.
comparing to living room like 20, 21 or more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know.
Interesting. That's also what I wanted to ask you. The ideal room temperature. I've heard when it's too warm, it's really not good. It's not good for the
Absolutely.
legs, for
Fresh air,
example.
but also the temperature. So these are two independent factors here, because
Mm-hmm.
you could have fresh air and then turn the thermostat on 25 degrees, and in most cases it doesn't help. Also for some people, which I like to, and I can kind of promote and share with you, I like it myself, to sleep naked. There's of course some people who might not like it or whatever, so I don't, not like crucial that only if you sleep naked you sleep well.
Okay.
But there are studies and also cultures, like even in the cold cultures, like in Finland, almost everybody sleeps naked. And actually the feeling warm comes from your body, and if you're covered with whatever this warmth will create, it will take only maybe a few minutes longer, but then it's very comfortable for the body, that especially that you don't have squeezing materials on your body. Yeah, if it's very loose, it's also okay. But I tried, like, I was not always, like as a kid I didn't do it, but like maybe I was 30 years old, I tried it once, somebody told me, and I love it. I mean, and I also would encourage people, yeah, try it. Let's experiment a little. Maybe it's not for everybody, but let's try it. Like, put the temperature a bit lower, make fresh air, try to sleep naked. You'll see what happens. Nothing bad. Yeah, if you don't like it, maybe a few days later you can come back to old routines. But I really like this experimentation, especially with the good things. You know,
yeah, just to
why
find out
shouldn't
what
we
is good.
try something? There is nothing to lose, and we might get or gain something. So I hope there was a few useful ideas.
A couple of
Yeah.
useful
Maybe
ideas.
last little thing, this blue light that you mentioned, very important. Blue for our brain is the morning. You know, the blue, the color of the sun in the morning is more like in bluish, the yellow bluish part of the spectrum, and in the evening is the yellow reddish part. You know, so blue light is a signal. It's still
Wake up.
morning. Well, let's be awake. You know, like so. That's why we should avoid it. If you want to read something electronically, then Kindle with this white paper version, it's much better. But normal classical book would be even better. And as an option, I bought this pair of glasses myself, this anti blue light glasses. This is also an option for people who really want to read something or watch something on their iPad, let's say, or our electronic device. So there is also in some computers, you have this option of this warmer light in the background. So you can, most the modern computers have it. Another possibility are these special glasses that also help to like smoothly prepare for
the sleep. And at the end of reading, put it away. So nothing else in bedroom than sleeping, and no disturb. How do you say? Nothing that would disturb you, or ablenken, as we say. Maybe a short last question. How to handle age and sleep? Do we really need less sleep when we are older, and why?
Yeah, there is different opinions in literature around it. There was this notion what many people heard, that they're actually in older age, we need maybe more sleep, and that's the experience of some people. Preparing for today's interview, I read some studies, and the latest I remember said that actually this offer, because you see differences from offer to offer, but this offer that I read today in the morning said that the average amount of sleep needed by people differs from 6 to 8, with 7 being kind of, or 7 or 7.5, the sweet spot. But in the older age, like after 65, or I think he mentioned, it's between 7 and 8. So paradoxically, he would like even like the maximum was not changed, but the minimum was put up, like from 6 to 7. So you know, it seems that it's not like it is definitely individual, so there are differences. But it seems, and also some historical data supported that there are some data from literature and from early doctors from the beginning of the 20th or even 19th century, where people made observations and put on paper things like how long I slept or my patient slept. And it seems that at that time, nobody had this idea of sleeping 6 hours or less. Everybody
Yeah.
would sleep like 8 hours, especially knowing like without electricity or maybe only candles, it was not very convenient to long was too dark. So most people would follow this day and night schedule of the day that we are used, depending on your geographical zone. But it would mean that most people would sleep 8 or more hours. Sometimes in the past, like it was interesting for me that the people slept in two phases, like they made a break in the night sometimes, or depending on the climate, like now, for instance, the people in very hot regions, like including Spain, Sicily, and so on, that they have this famous siesta time,
Yes,
like
yes.
between 2 and 3, and even shops are closed and so on. So this idea of sleeping like in two parts, it's in some cultures and also in some historical eras, it was quite popular, not so much nowadays. We have more air conditioning and internationalization, you know, people tend to kind of synchronize also worldwide in the terms of
Yes.
how they sleep. So this two-phase sleeping is not very popular anymore, but it seems that this is not the problem. So if for whatever reason you would like to sleep in one phase, let's say 4 or 5 hours, and then in the afternoon have 1 or 2 naps, and altogether you will come to close to 7, it might be a good choice for many people, including the older people, because
Okay.
there's also this schedule that sometimes the older person will have a difficulty to sleep the whole night, but then they have the tendency to have a need for a nap. Yeah.
Yes.
This might be a great, combination. Yeah, most younger people, also because of the rhythm with the job and schedule, it's not
Yeah,
very
yeah.
probable that you have enough time for the nap. So probably more practical schedule would be like one big piece of intensive sleep of, let's say, 7, 8 hours,
Yes,
and then you
yes.
have the activity models. But for older people, they sometimes have more time, or also cannot sleep in one piece too long, but then they can catch up during the day, which is absolutely okay. And then they shouldn't have a bad conscience or like feel embarrassed that they fall asleep or need a nap. It's absolutely physiologically sound and good. So
Yes, yes. No, that sounds like a logical explanation. Very plausible. Now it came to my mind. Yes, old elder people have maybe more time, a different day rhythm, a different
absolutely.
processing their day, how they spend their day. And younger people still in the job or being parents, they have a different routine. No? So it's normal to
Yeah.
have. Yeah.
Exactly. And this is the individuality. So we should not be rigid with this, but everybody needs sleep and everybody needs enough sleep. And
Yes.
if you care for yourself and if you want to have a great life, make sure that you don't only have enough, meaning the minimum amount of sleep to survive, but you have as much sleep as you need to be the best version of yourself.
Perfect. Perfect. Perfect end word, Miro. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this big insight into the world of sleep. I'm sure we could continue talking. We continue talking, but to another topic. So thanks again. Thank you for your
Thank you so much.
insights. Have a good
Have a
day.
great day and have a great night's sleep.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.